Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm here with Bill Orender. Hey, Bill.
Larry, hello.
Hey, we're going to continue our series of you grilling me.
In my dreams, Larry.
and the thing is that the only thing that I'm scared of on this is that you're going to get me in a whole lot of trouble because I just take my filters off and let it run. So hopefully I won't get in too much trouble.
No, you won't. You know, Larry, one of the big things that everyone wants to know, who are the people in your life that had the biggest influences for this success that you had here? And maybe not their whole life, but who are the few people that kind of set you up for that success that eventually came? And when it came, it was astounding how fast it came for you. And who are some of those people?
Well, Bill, it wasn't complicated, unless you have some kind of hangups. Kids expect the best. You know what I'm saying? Like they want tennis shoes, they want the Michael Jordan $1 million ones, and I just had a environment where that I don't know that they encouraged it that much. I don't know that they expected anything great, but they didn't kill it. Let's say that. And so it's an extension of what I said earlier, that I just liked winning. And, growing up, it's just naturally you look at the best people in whatever it is you're doing, the best athletes, the prettiest girls, the smartest people, the most fun people to be around. And
I know you have those on your podcast too, by the way. It seems to be that same kind of trend.
Yeah. if I can. And yeah, because people who capture, it's the thing about the wow thing. People that capture your imagination, they don't just do things, they do it at another level. Like even if they're talking, they can phrase things a different way. They just have something different about them. And once you get it in your mind that what anybody else is doing, you can do. Any ideas they're using, and if someone uses a phrase, you can use that phrase. I mean, you can explain things that way. In fact, everybody in different specialties of life have their ways of expressing things. They have their language, and a lot of them will apply in other areas, those concepts, and you can pick those things up. And so I always have gravitated to people who have something special about them. And that are fun to be around. And also you learn things from, and you get things you can use to make your life better or solve problems quicker and, move through life a little faster and with a little bit more fun. But that's why, like I said, you were the big speaker that we always gravitated to in the early days of our business, because, you always had something fresh, a different take. You'd obviously thought about things and had a way of expressing it that, was entertaining rather than just plowing through the same field, And so, it's not just planting plants, but putting some flowers in there, and, having some variety. Monotony causes people to lose interest fast. And so you look for the people who can do special things. They have a gift and they're using it. And they're special. And so I gravitated to special people. And in the company, later I look back and I found out that, I'd always done this kind of, I wasn't really aware I was doing it growing up, but like at Georgia Tech, I got involved in Campus Crusade for Christ, and they had programs, and they had leaders that would come through, and I'd gravitate to those leaders because they had ways of seeing things, saying things, expressing things, and that were unique, fascinating insights. But my cousin, I tell you, my oldest cousin,
right.
Edward, invented the personal computer back in Albuquerque in the mid-'70s, and that's where Microsoft came from. Bill Gates and Paul Allen worked for him. And so he always had a different way of saying things. He was a powerhouse, but and I asked him I asked him for advice. He got straight A's when he had the military put him through college, and he stayed so long. They finally said, you got to graduate, Edward. And in the last the last quarter, he took courses and he wound up with like 7 degrees.
Wow.
He had studied everything up to where the last required course, and then he went on and studied something else. But he always got straight A's and everything. So I even before I went to Georgia Tech, I went down and had a special session with Edward on how to get great grades. And I'll always remember, he said, sit in the front of the room, write down what the professor thinks is important, things like that. And so he, as brilliant as he was, he had a method. He had a system for, going to class. He just didn't assume, I'll be a genius and get a straight A. No, he had a system. And so I was picking brains. Even that's kind of one of the earliest ones I learned about. But when I got in the business here, I got with Bob Turley and Art Williams, the founders, and and people like Bob Weison, Virginia Carter. I wanted to pick your brains and find out everything you knew. And of course, we were in the sales era. And so you guys were like naturally, it seemed to me, naturally instinctive, charismatic salespeople. I didn't know how hard you had to work to get good at it. It just seemed like it was a natural, and I was not a natural. And I always thought that was an advantage to me, Bill, because when you're not a natural, you have to dig harder, and it means more to you when you get it, and you take the knowledge seriously. And Art always bragged that he was an incredible instant success at every level, and that's why people could relate to him. And I told him, I said, no, I said, I think you got that backwards. I said, I think they can relate to me because I was always floundering and mediocre at every level until I figured out how to make it work. And I said, I think more people can relate to me, Art. And so but I was always following the best and brightest, mainly because it was more fun. I mean, you're looking for the wow, you're looking for the excitement.
Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who've actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whiteelementwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up.
If somebody else is doing, I did hear this, I heard a couple of phrases that really locked me into this, which was great ideas don't care who uses them. mediocre people are a dime a dozen. The things like that. Great ideas are a dime a dozen, but the people who use them are priceless. And so the idea that these were tools, ideas, phrases, things out there that if somebody else was doing them to be successful, you could unravel what they were doing, how they looked at something, what was in their mind, and you could do the same thing. But you had to figure out how they were looking at it, what they were doing. You'd hear what they say, you'd see what they do, but that's what I was always doing. And then when we went independent and we decided we were going to spread this thing all over the country, and we went from a handful of people to 150,000 or more now, offices everywhere. It was like recruiting and training. Well, you guys did, that was not your expertise at that point. Everybody got good at it. But at that point, we were kind of figuring it out. And then some of the early people who charged out of the gate, I was picking their brain and trying to figure out and put together pieces from them. So I've always followed the leaders, Bill. And it's like, I just don't want to waste my time. I did understand that there's great recognition goes to inventors, but I didn't want to be Thomas Alva Edison with 10,000 failed experiments in the basement. I wanted to learn, get the formula for how you make light bulbs, license it from somebody if you had to license it to get the formula, and then build factories all over the country making light bulbs. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to invent. The lonely life of the inventor was not my deal. Plus, we weren't getting paid for that. We were getting paid to market a product, take the message to the masses. So I wanted to take the message to the masses, and I wanted to build a massive army to take the message to the masses. And so people who figured details out about that, I studied them seriously. I took it dead serious. And, the more you do it and then you have success from it, you'll naturally kind of refine it, put your own slant on it, but the core foundational principles are the same. The rest is just kind of personalization, window dressing. But what happens is you teach yourself. The more you use something, the more you teach yourself about it. Somebody else can teach you the fundamentals of swimming, but there's a lot of it you're going to have to teach yourself by getting in the water and just, interpreting what you're told in your body, and pretty much any kind of performance type thing. So see what we've all got to find out, Bill, is what works for us. Because things don't, that's the whole thing about the vaccine. I won't get on my thing about the vaccine, but there is no God blessed vaccine that'll cure everybody, because we're all different. You take vitamin C, and take 10 people and give them 1,000 grams of milligrams of vitamin C, you're going to get 10 different absorption rates. So one guy might have to take 10 times more than the first guy to get the same absorption rate. So we're all different. So you got to find out what works for you. Other people can be brash and bold and funny and bully people a little bit. And maybe if you try it, everybody gets offended and hates your guts. So you got to figure out, because meek-minded people can be super leaders. Big braggadocio guys can be leaders and everybody loves them. But big braggadocio guys can also alienate everybody. It's a matter of, you got to develop your style and find out what works for you. And, that's what I was doing when I picked up, and I would be picking up ideas from other people. And pretty much the results, I went by the results. Whatever we could get results from, I say, okay, that stays. Now, what do we need to refine? Because you can always refine things. No matter what your project is or your program, there's always lots of moving parts, beginning, middle, end, and a lot of cycles you go through in that, and the people involved in it, processes involved in it, And so there's always places to improve. And so when I look for improvements, any little particular thing, I look for who's the best at that and go talk to them.
If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelementwinning.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.